Hello friends, in this video I'll present to you the case study of startup called Jabong.com. We will understand why this startup failed. So let's dive in. Jabong started in year 2012. Let's first understand what this startup was about. So Jabong basically was a fashion-based e-commerce brand, a fashion-based e-commerce company. It was on a mission to make fashion accessible to everyone. They had Indian as well as international brands. Jabong sold fragrance, apparel, footwear, beauty products, and other fashion related products. Basically, from Jabong's website, you could order fashion related items, and those items would be delivered at your doorstep in 2 to 3 days. So, this was what Jabong was doing. And there was, in fact, a need of such a market, of such a startup in India, because there were some e-commerce companies like Flipkart and Amazon, but they were not niche specific. That is, they focused on each and every item. There was no company that focused on fashion, and that is what Jabong decided to cater. So generally we know that companies are started by founders. It can be a solo founder or a co-founder, right? But in this case, there was something unique. Jabong was rather started by another company called Rocket Internet. Now, what is this Rocket Internet? So, Rocket Internet is a German company that clones the businesses which are successful in developing countries. Then, when its competitors comes in those countries, the company started by Rocket Internet gets acquired by those competitors. So, what do I mean by this? Basically, you must have heard a startup called Groupon, which is a deals and discount platform. Now, this startup Groupon is an American company. It was started in America. Now, after it got successful in America, Rocket Internet noticed that this business model of Groupon is successful. And so they started this same company with a different name, that is City Deals, in their own country, that is in Germany. So basically, when Groupon will expand, obviously they will come and expand to different markets of the world, right? And so when Groupon will come to Europe, when it will come to Germany, it will have a competitor City Deal. And so Groupon will be forced to acquire City Deal. That is how Rocket Internet made money. Basically, it copied the businesses which were successful in other developing countries and copied it into its own country. So, when that competitor comes in their own country, they make huge money by getting acquired by their competitor. So this way, Groupon had acquired City Deals in $125 million. So basically, Rocket Internet incubates the company, that is, set up the company, provides all the services, appoints the co-founders so that the company could get started. Then it invests money in the company and finally grows the company. That is how the business model of Rocket Internet works. So, since Rocket Internet saw that many fashion-based company were getting traction, were getting successful in another countries, that is why they started a similar company, Jabong, in India. This is how Jabong started. Now, what were the unique selling proposition of Jabong? So Jabong provided 30-day return policy for customer satisfaction. Now this was something very important as a customer. Understand, this was 2012. The online e-commerce market was not yet penetrated in a country like India, and internet was less accessible than it is today. So providing these 30-day return policy is extremely important for customer satisfaction. Along with that, Jabong adopted inventory plus marketplace model. So you must wonder that why did they adopt this inventory plus marketplace model? What is the sense of adopting such a hybrid model? So let me explain it to you. Inventory model is the one in which you buy the stock from the manufacturer and keep it in your warehouse. The main advantage of inventory model is that you get advantage of pricing. Since you're buying directly from manufacturer and buying in bulk, you get the items at cheaper prices. That is advantage of inventory based model. And the advantage of marketplace model is that you don't have to set up warehouses. You just have to connect the seller with the buyer, and you act as a mediator. Just act as a delivery agent and enjoy small commission in between. So why did they use both these models? They used both these models so that they could get advantage of cheap pricing of inventory model and small commissions of marketplace model. Had it been only inventory based model, then they would have to set up huge warehouses and encounter huge warehousing costs. And had it been only marketplace model, then they would not get high margins and just get small commissions. So that is why they adopted hybrid e-commerce model. And in this course you will see some of grocery delivery startup that gets fail, because due to depending only on marketplace model. So balancing these models is very crucial for a startup. And in past many startups have failed because they relied only on one model. This hybrid e-commerce model was fantastically executed by Jabong, and that is why they were going on right direction. Along with that, they gave open box delivery to build trust. Now, this was crucial as well. Now, this was 2012 when e-commerce market was not so penetrated. And so what used to happen is these sellers used to sell fake items. Along with that, they used to missell as well. It's like if I ordered for shoes and I am getting a pen, that is not the right deal, right? So they decided to give open box delivery so that the customers could trust Jabong.com. Due to fantastic execution and these USPs, Jabong generated a revenue of $76 million dollars in 2014 with 36% repeat rate. In 2015, they scaled their operations and touched revenue of $132 million dollars with 51% repeat rate. This way, Jabong acquired 25% market share in Indian fashion market. So they were doing this fantastic. Finally, something happens which was really shocking for the Indian startup ecosystem. Jabong gets acquired only in $70 million dollars in 2016. Now you may ask that why is this a failure? Is it not a success? The startup got acquired, right? No, that's not how you should think. Understand, a startup that was doing $132 million dollars in revenue and was having $1.2 billion valuation got acquired only in $70 million. So this is a huge failure. Just imagine they could have got acquired at $1.2 billion but got acquired at $70 million. It's a failure, right? So let's understand step by step the reasons behind their failure. As I told you, this company was not started by a bunch of friends, that is, by co founders or by a solo founder. This company was started by another company, which was Rocket Internet. And the reason they failed is Rocket Internet offered fixed salary to the co founders. They did not give equity, and so all co founders left with time. So the issue of corporate governance caused the decline of company. The co-founders were Manukumar Jain, Praveen Sinha, and Aruchandran Mohan. And these co-founders left one by one, in 1 year, in 2 years, and in 3 years, respectively. That is how Jabong saw the decline. Because understand, if the main people at the top of the funnel, the people responsible for running the entire company, leave, then this is something bound to happen, right? So this was the first major reason why they failed. Along with that, their competitor Myntra had emerged in market, and Flipkart, which was a big e-commerce giant, had acquired Myntra to tap into fashion market. And so Jabong was not able to raise funds. Now, let's understand this point very carefully and something you really need to be careful about, Now understand, Myntra got acquired by Flipkart, but how did it affect Jabong? So there is something that investors see while investing in your company. They see that how much funds are raised by your competitor. If the case is that your competitor has raised a huge amount of funds, a humongous amount of funds, then raising funds for yourself will become difficult. That is what happened with Jabong.com. Myntra, which was competitor of Jabong.com, raised millions of dollars in funding. And so Jabong was not able to raise funds because investors told Jabong that, listen, Your competitor has raised lots of funds and now they are very much ahead of you and are going to capture huge market share. So why should we fund you? What is your USP? How you will beat them? These are the questions that investors ask. So the key learning that I want to give you here is that always make sure that you have sufficient funds. Okay, that could be done in two ways. Either you keep on raising funds every 9 to 12 months so that you are not in a funding crunch, or else make your business so robust, so solid, that you are able to generate cash flow from your own business itself. Because not able to raise funds is a very common reason of startup failure. For example, I remember this case study of startup called Dunzo, which is a successful startup as of now in India. So Dunzo is basically a grocery delivery and a courier service based startup. So what happened with Dunzo is they were rejected by 90 investors. Yes, such a huge number. You heard it right. They were rejected by 90 investors. And the only reason they were getting rejected is that their competitors like Blinkit, Zepto, Big Basket had huge funding. So that is something you need to keep in mind. Now, the third reason of failure for Jabong.com was loss of vision. As I told you earlier, that the vision of Rocket Internet was that it grows the company and then sells it to bigger player, its bigger competitor, right? This was their business model. But this time they did not do so. They thought that let's grow the company, and then they thought that let's do the IPO, and nothing really happened. They completely lost their vision. In fact, Amazon, the e-commerce giant, gave them huge offer of 1.2 billion dollars, but they just rejected that offer because they thought that in future their valuation will increase more. They will get more huge offer in 2 4 years, but that did not happen. So the key learning here is that if you're a startup and have a small market share and limited funds, and if you're getting an acquisition offer from a bigger player with deep pockets, then rejecting it can lead to failure. Understand this word can. I'm not saying that it is going to be failure for sure. All I'm saying is that if your competitor has deep pockets, if they are for example, if they are having $100 of funding and if you are having $1 of funding, then clearly they will beat you, right? They are not going to let you emerge. So always keep this point in mind. If you're getting some good offer from bigger player, think on it carefully. Don't reject it right away. Anyways, final calls will be your obviously. Now, what were the key learnings from these case studies? As the first learning comes that whenever your company reaches a certain level and is handled by senior executives, you need to make sure that those people do not leave your company. And for that, you need to understand you have to give them some equity, or else they are going to leave you soon. Because salary is something that they could get in any company, right? Why would senior leaders even join your company if you're only going to give them salary? So make sure you give them equity. It is something really valuable for them, to stick in your company for years. Second thing is that you cannot lose your vision again and again. As per the model of Rocket Internet, which is to get acquired by its competitor, they did not follow their own model. Jabong first thought of growing more and then doing IPO, but nothing happened, and their valuation dropped gradually because their competitor got big funding. So these were the collections of mistakes that were done by Jabong, and I hope you learned something valuable from this case study. See you in the next one.